And we're back here talking to Randy Turner. He is the owner operator of Direct Action Combat Performance. Sorry we got at the cut off there, but love to get your continued kind of analysis of the situation with the Canadian Armed Forces, the training, the availability of resources, those kinds of issues. Randy, please continue with your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. The temperature right now within the Canadian Armed Forces, it's not unknown to the men and women who are in uniform that they're in a bit of a rut right now, and it needs to improve. I believe it will. I mean, I'm an optimist by choice, but the current state of the Canadian Armed Forces right now is not very good.
No.
A sustainable, reliable fighting force. It is not. There was a lot of good men and women in uniform right now that are they're urging for a purpose. They're urging for the resources to do their job well. They want to get better. They see innovative ways to make things, to improve things within the Canadian Armed Forces. However, they're felt or they feel they're met with one obstacle or another, either resource related or funding related. So,
All right.
my analysis is the Canadian Armed Forces need to improve not just the salaries of the men and women in uniform, but the resources, the kit and equipment needs to improve. The funding towards the Canadian Armed Forces needs to improve. And I do believe to the core of my being, it needs to happen quick. It needs to be a high priority within the government to make these positive changes.
Right, right, and it appears that part of course, it becomes a vicious circle. Yeah, the resources aren't there, the training opportunities aren't there, and then they have difficulty recruiting. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a shock to anybody that Canada, generally speaking, is a very reactive state. They could tend to wait until something happens before they make decisions on making improvement. And the recruitment, there's a lack of recruitment. There are men and women who are interested in getting the Canadian Forces, but with the current state, they're asking themselves, why bother?
Right.
So it's a bit hard to have those conversations and try to motivate people to join the Canadian Forces when it's in the current state that it is. So, like I said earlier, I am an optimist by choice. I do feel it's going to get better, but some serious changes need to happen quick.
Gotcha. And, I know you weren't deployed in the Arctic, but that seems to be another area of concern that we've got, massive responsibilities along with the Americans, of course, to, protect and, patrol, and meet our military obligations in the Arctic. But, again, there's a challenge there, is there not?
Yeah, there for sure there's a challenge, but there's also a solution to those challenges. It's been known and on the radar for over a decade that our northern borders are pretty porous, and they need to be filled with troops that are capable and willing to put themselves up there, whether that looks like a rotational tour of employment or whatever it might be. There are solutions to that problem. Again, it comes down to motivation, will, desire, funding. All of these things are possible, and I think with a positive step in that direction, it would recruit more young men and women from the general public to want to get involved.
Are you getting a sense from your interaction with the general public that there's a lot more support for the Canadian Armed Forces, that people realize that things have got to change for the better in terms of resources and spending?
I don't know if I can answer to that one directly. Like the support towards the Canadian Armed Forces from general public has been ebb and flow as
Mm,
long as I was in uniform. During the Afghan days, there were a lot of people that were proud to say they support the Canadian Armed Forces, but then those same people would talk out of both sides of their mouth and say, bring troops home. Troops didn't want to come home. They were fulfilling a purpose. They were doing good work. So those supporters who say bring the troops home are somewhat the same ones that say we support them, but how you support them
mm,
is, you know, educating people on what the Canadian Armed Forces are doing or educating themselves, because some conversations that I had with a variety of different people from different walks of life, while I was in uniform, they had no idea what we were doing. They
right.
would read the headlines from, whatever National Post or Global Mail, and they would formulate their opinion on that, which was so far from the reality of what was actually going on. So I would, oftentimes, and, openly, I would help educate what we were actually doing in Afghanistan. And I'm just using Afghanistan as an example. We got a lot of good Canadian, military folks in a variety of different regions throughout the world currently. I just use that as an example because that was my world.
No, that's a really good point, how education is key in terms of the general public.